Guys, we're back with part two, where we're going to cover some flagship digital audio players. In part one, we talked about kind of $1,000 and under price range. The top one was the Con Max, the iBasso DX240, the Astell&Kern SR25 Mark II, and the iBasso DX170. We're back today with some more top-end flagship level players. So we've got the DX320 from iBasso, and then from Astell&Kern, the SP2000T, SP3000. I wanted to throw the Acro CA1000 into the mix because I think this is a really good solution for a lot of people. Again, we're limited to the players that we currently have on Bloom Audio, but we've obviously listened to more than what's on the table here to help develop our thoughts on these ones. And today we're just going to really talk about what sets a player apart at this level, where we're talking, $2,000, $3,000 or more for a player. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. So we have 4 flagship level players here, each with some similar designs with the exception of CA1000, which is a desktop player, so it kind of marches to the beat of its own drummer there. But there's also some different design notes from each one and some differences there. So DX320 from iBasso, the first thing you'll notice about it is really awesome, big, nice screen on this. The overall build quality materials is pretty solid, but not quite up to Astell&Kern levels. That's kind of metal sleeve with a nice plastic back here. The wheel's like a smooth one as opposed to the more metallic clicky wheels of Astell&Kern. And then in the bottom, you've got this removable amp card with 4.4, 3.5, and 2.5 millimeter outputs on that. Of course, Acro CA1000 is a desktop player, so this is a lot bigger. It is transportable. It has a battery built in. Just not pocketable, obviously. So this has a screen that slides up so that when you're using it on a desk, it can look at that however you like that. This has a lot of outputs and inputs. So, we've got a 6.3 millimeter, 3.5, 4.4, 2.5, and then flip it around on the back. This has optical in for DAC mode as well as coax in, has an analog in with RCAs, and an analog output as well, along with SD card, separate USB-C for data and for charging for that separation there. So this has a lot of cool features. It's a really cool unit. If you're not actually going anywhere with your player, it might be a good option. Next up, we have the SP2000T. So this is similar to the SP2000 in design, which also ends up being similar to the SP3000. But this one uses a tube-based option on it. You can see the window. I'll turn the device on so you can see the kind of glow you get through the window. But this is a pretty standard Astell&Kern design. Hardware buttons here. Nice tactile volume wheel there. Power, and then 3.5, 4.4, and 2.5 on the top. And you can see you got this little window here, and that lights up. Pretty cool. And that light will let you know regarding the tube mode, as well as also different quality and other things like that. Finally, we have the SP3000. Again, it's a similar basic form factor. This is an all-new finish. It's this super glossy stainless finish. This really cool pattern on the back. I'm not doing a great job highlighting here. Along with same, 3.5, 4.4, 2.5, USB-C, micro SD on the bottom. You do have to watch out. This is very fingerprint prone. It looks incredible though. This is really heavy. It's got a lot of good heft and weight to it. It's a really solid So we're going to start out with the SP3000 here to show off the new interface a little bit for some comparisons. So Astell&Kern did a complete overhaul, their whole UI, and some changes to their sort of philosophy here, where they did put some more effort into the processor, memory, and all of that to just create an overall faster device here. So you can see it's a little bit smoother than previous versions. It adds the same selection of apps, which are now available for direct download. A little bit of a more Android-y look here. They also separated out the album browsing. Browse by different things, albums, and all of that, versus your other features of there. The equalizer right there and everything else. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a great update to Astell&Kern's system here, both from a performance perspective and just from a usability perspective. Looks great, feels great. Really knocked it out of the park with this one. So SP2000T is using the old UI, so you can see here, browsing through the collection is just it's not quite as engaging as it was on the new system. Not quite as fast and snappy. You can see some minor lags. The playlist there. It does have the ability to download things, but you can just see there's an overall improvement to the snappiness of it, and I just find the newer one to be a bit easier to use and navigate as well. I should also note one cool thing on here is the tube mode. So if I do a hold down on this, I get the ability to switch from various degrees of tube versus solid state. So you can go all the way in the solid state op amp mode, all the way in the tube mode, or blend that however you like to. The DX320 is a totally different animal, giving you a more or less stock Android environment that you can use here with your device. So you can install any number of apps, app stores, and all of that, and just use this like you would just about any Android phone. It's very fast, very responsive. You can open up the player, and there's some additional configuration features in the player here. And then also from here, you can adjust your gain mode and all this stuff. And this is basically, just like a stock Android control center with those additional options added. And we just wanted to take a quick look at the CA1000. This shares most of the same interface with the SP2000T, but there are a few other options on this one, mostly connected to the input and output on the device. So you can manage your source, so you can receive analog in to use this essentially as an amp, digital in to use it as a DAC amp, and analog out to use it as, it's not plugged in, it's not going to work, to use this essentially as a player as well. So a lot of options here. A really cool, really versatile device that lets you do a lot. For the sound, there isn't a huge amount of sonic difference between these four players in terms of the tuning, but there are other characteristics that do make a big difference. These two, the SP2000T and the Acro CA1000, are using the same Flagship ESS DAC chipset in a quad DAC configuration. The main difference between these two comes from the power, and not just the amplifier power, but also the stability you get from the sort of big battery, larger form factor in the CA1000 versus the SP2000T, which uses a hybrid tube amp, which can be adjusted, as we saw before, from solid state to full tube mode. That gives that some unique characteristics to the sound. With the DX320, it's actually interesting because these two are Astell&Kern players that are a little bit closer to a reference sound than the house Astell&Kern sound we would typically think of. The DX320 is an iBasso player that's a little bit more romantic, a little bit warmer possibly than your typical house iBasso sound, which tends more towards that reference type delivery. But with players at this level, it's not just that amount of tuning where the SP3000 really expertly adjusts the treble to create a really non-fatiguing experience that doesn't make relaxed into like a dirty word that like, oh, this just sounds relaxed. It just sculpts things enough that you could plug in your favorite IEMs and listen to it all day. But there's a lot of brilliantly tuned DAPs across the price range. And there's some other things that really make the difference in the experience and in the sound at this level. And the big one is really that presentation of the stereo image, where you're not just getting a good sound, you're not just getting a detailed sound. All four of these give you that engaging, immersive, holographic experience that you really can't get at lower levels in a digital audio player. So in terms of that immersive imaging, SP3000 is the king. It has the most lifelike holographic sound and this sense of immense space, but in a realistic way, but also this great sense of intimacy. It knows how to balance the image perfectly to give you both ends of that. The vastness of an orchestra or the intimacy of an acoustic guitar and a vocalist. SP2000T comes pretty close, but it can't quite combine all the elements together. In the solid state mode, you get a very wide sound stage. And using the tube or hybrid modes tends to narrow that a little bit. But at the same time, those tube modes add some more of that weight to the image, that real sense of almost a tactile feeling to it. But you also lose a little bit of that completely pitch black background that SP3000 puts everything against with the tube mode. So you get a little bit of the characteristics of the SP3000, but not quite the whole picture. And it's similar with the CA1000, the Acro, where I found it surprisingly wasn't as wide as either the SP2000 or the SP3000, but it did have a really good sense of the holographic, very tactile, weighty feeling to the instruments in the image. And this is also where I think DX320 shines at its price point, is that imaging, where this is the cheapest of the players that we have up here, and it really does deliver imaging that's on par with the SP2000T. It gives you, again, like almost SP3000, but it can't quite get the whole thing together. It gives you some amount of the width and some amount of that holographic sense. It can't quite capture the vastness. It doesn't feel quite as black on the background as the Astell&Kern players, but it comes really close to that incredibly immersive sound that you're getting. Probably, 5 years ago or something like this, DX320 would have blown all those players out of the water. But in the current landscape, it's kind of just behind. But again, for the money, this is probably giving you the most value in that stereo image presentation. These DAPs definitely give you a lot of options and a good range of features. If you're looking for that flagship sound and performance to go with your flagship IEMs, or even your not quite flagship IEMs, the DX320 is absolutely incredible, and for the money, it's probably the best player on the table. But again, it can't quite achieve everything that these other ones deliver. the 2000T, with its configurable amp modes, does give you this ability with the tap of a button to adjust it just a little bit. And this is a great player if you have a large collection of IEMs, or even some over-ear headphones that'll work well with a digital audio player. SP2000T gives you that range of options where if one IEM you'd rather get that tube mode, rather get a little bit of smoothness, that stronger note weight, while as another you want the more reference, solid state, wider sound stage mode. You can get all of that out of one player with this. Now I should note the DX320 has the removable amp cards. You can get some of that same experience with some of the amp cards available. It's just, in this case, you need a screwdriver and a few minutes to swap out the amp cards rather than just the touch of a button on the SP2000T. Now, the CA1000, this is just a really great versatile piece. And I think a lot of people end up using their digital audio players almost entirely within their home. And if that's you, this is a really good option to look at because of the options it gives you, the power delivery and everything else. You get a lot in this package that can flex in a lot of different ways in a home media environment as well. And again, it gives you that flagship Astell&Kern sound that's in many ways you're delivering the same characteristics as the SP2000T, just in a sort of a bigger package. And of course, the SP3000, from the tuning to the presentation of the stereo image, the three-dimensionality, the technical aspect of this black background that you're getting the sound presented on, the improved performance and the updated UI. Unless you need this sort of Android open OS to download various apps, I can wholeheartedly recommend the SP3000 as the best digital audio player out there right now. Thanks for watching. Let us know your picks in the comments below. And of course, you can head over to bloomaudio.com to check out any of these players here from this video or the previous video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more hi-fi personal audio content.